Knight Rider. A shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. Michael Knight, a young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of criminals who operate above the law.
Michael, I just activated a life-saving mechanism for your safety.
Knight Rider. Hello, I am the many-talented Mr. Jefferson, and today I'm here to talk about Knight Rider, a pinball table about a shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist. Michael Knight, a young loner on a crusade to champion the cause of the innocent, the helpless, the powerless, in a world of criminals who operate above the law. Holy shit, this show had an amazing intro, and it was part of an era when you could sell an audience on a show by making an amazing couple of minutes of footage that would play every single week. We're talking about the era of G.I. Joe, Transformers, the A-Team, Silverhawks, Mask, and Galaxy Rangers. And the one thing these shows all had in common were totally bitchin' intros, and one of the baddest, most gnarly television intros ever was Knight Rider's opening monologue, backed by a sick synth track, and oh my god, what has happened to my vocabulary? It's suddenly totally bogus and most heinous when it used to be most bodacious. Like, whatever. Playing this table must have regressed my speech patterns back to my childhood. I lived through this era of acid wash jeans, neon, VHS cassettes, trapper keepers, and breakdancing, and the baddest car of the 80s was KITT, voiced by Mr. Feeney of Boy Meets World of all people. Knight Rider was a stunt show like Xena, but it was a vehicular stunt show, not an acrobatic wrestling style spectacular. The show starred David Hasselhoff as Michael Knight and had some laughably bad writing sometimes. You didn't exactly watch Knight Rider for the plot, you watched it to see cars smash the crap out of each other and get blown up and do crazy jumps, and as luck would have it, a train carrying a load of Pontiac Trans Ams derailed, and the show only had to pay for the hero cars you see driving around most of the time, and they got a bunch of damaged cars for $1 a piece, which they could smash the shit out of, which is why you see KITT totaled in 4 separate episodes. The dummy cars were really cheap, so they could do stuff like film a Mack truck plowing into KITT at full speed or just parachute the car off a cliff, which is one of the reasons the show was so good. There was also the music, the sound effects, KITT's voice, the car stunts, and these are the best parts of the show, and they translate into one fantastic pinball table that takes full advantage of the vehicles and the crashes, while cutting out a lot of the insane plot of the show, and if you don't think the plot was totally insane, then you really were not paying any attention. Michael Knight is actually a man named Detective Michael Long who gets shot in the face and given a new identity and plastic surgery to go undercover by one Wilton Knight. Whose face did Wilton pick? He picked his own face because of course nobody would recognize that, especially not his own son who looks exactly like Michael Knight does now. His son, who is still alive and serving 3 consecutive life sentences in an African prison, which makes it maybe the worst disguise he could have possibly picked. This is compounded by the fact that Garth breaks out of prison and gets so pissed off that his dad basically created a new son to replace him, complete with his face and last name, that he creates Goliath just to kill Michael Knight. Goliath, by the way, is the name of the indestructible Mack truck that smashes the shit out of the nearly indestructible KITT. Actually, KITT is nearly indestructible unless you try to tow him, in which case this supercar breaks down immediately because, again, the writing on this show can be profoundly stupid. But at least it's the fun kind of dumb. Explaining this table is going to be a blast because I did not fully understand it myself at first. I had been playing the game without looking at the guide, and I've been able to do some really cool stuff, and I really wanted to know what I was doing to trigger half of it. And when I say I've seen this table do some really cool stuff, I mean I've had a multi-ball going while Auto Cruise was active, so the table was actually playing itself while I was telling it which shots to make, and I was racking up jackpots like hella quick. Ugh, damn this sudden 80s vocabulary of mine. To start explaining the table, I'm not actually going to go straight to the flippers right away because I really have to talk about the table rules a little bit first. So I'm actually going to start with the drain. I don't think I've played a table quite like Knight Rider before, and that's because most stuff on the table does not reset when you drain the ball. Knight Rider is a very story-driven table, and the modes are often longer and more complex than most other tables, and to accommodate this, you pick up right where you left off when you launch a new ball. So if Kit got knocked on his ass by Goliath, he is going to stay on his ass until you run the diagnostics to start the next phase of the mode, which is a really cool feature in a table which is packed with cool features. Just above the drain are the 2 standard flippers with 2 slingshots and a generous 6 lanes with rollovers that spell out Knight. Spelling Knight will activate the random award at the Kit console sinkhole. The 2 outside lanes are out lanes with kickbacks, and there are habit trails leading to the rollovers for the middle lane on either side, making lane management a priority because the rollovers are the kind that deactivate too, so you don't want to hit them twice. Once Knight is fully lit, he should probably just let Kit drive. Once Knight is lit, he will stay lit until he falls into a sinkhole. Until the ball falls into the sinkhole. What's wrong with me? Why can't I get the image of a half-naked man eating a cheeseburger on the floor of a shower out of my head? Weird. Anyways, get Knight lit and fall into a hole and get a random award, but I don't think one of those awards is a cheeseburger. Above the right lanes is Kit's monitor and his sinkhole. As stated above, this is where you pick up a random award after lighting the rollovers, and it's also where you start the main modes once they are available. Above Kit's monitor is the vertical upper kicker saucer. It's a very short trip that leads to the upper left flipper just above the saucer. This is a fantastic flipper because it gives you access to several important shots on the table. The first shot you have access to is the Kit spinner toy. Go ahead, give it a whack. Kit is nearly indestructible. When you hit Kit a few times, the cross ramp to the right of Kit becomes a jump ramp, which Kit will use to launch onto the road above the table, where he will then enter the Flag mobile unit to prepare for a mission. What is Flag? It's the foundation for law and government who made the mobile garage and base of operations for Kit. You start one of the game modes by hitting either Kit's monitor or the jump ramp that opens up when Kit enters Flag. And what makes this particularly nice is that these 2 shots are technically right next to each other. If you miss Kit's monitor, you are very likely to hit the saucer, which will drop the ball above the upper flipper so that you can make an attempt on the shot on a ramp, which is really the coolest way to start missions, and it becomes a much easier shot when the vertical upper kicker sets up a nice controlled roll to the flipper. Hitting Kit's monitor when a mode is not active will change which mode will become active once you hit the Kit spinner enough times. Traveling further up the left side of the table, there is the left coastal orbit hidden behind the end of the habit trail. The left orbit awards kickbacks, making this one of the more important shots on the table because the ball will drain mostly from out lanes. To the right of the left coastal orbit is what I'm going to call Dead Man's Curve, mostly because it's a sharp turn and it is a reference to a particular scene in the first episode of the show. Dead Man's Curve is one of the orbits that awards Kit parts, and collecting all 10 parts starts the Kit Frenzy 2-ball multi-ball. Next up on the table we have a whole mess of toys. The Kit spinner is used primarily to start the main modes. There are 3 tire bumpers which will each build up to 100% when being hit, and then start a bumper frenzy mode that, you guessed it, increases scoring on the bumpers. Up there is also the car sinkhole used to start the car side mode, and this is where extra balls are collected as well. Below that is the turbo boost ramp. This ramp actually starts out flat and can be hit from the upper left flipper in either configuration. You can hit the cross ramp even if Kit is in the way, and if hit correctly, the ball will loop back to the flipper again, and repeated loops will increase the score of that shot. On the bottom, there are a set of targets and drop targets that spell out Turbo Boost, which will extend the ramp so you can collect the jackpot for a Turbo Boost jump. Hitting the letters of Turbo Boost will increase the jackpot. To the right is the Auto Cruise spinner, and hitting this will build up the gauge on Auto Cruise until it hits 100%, and then Kit will take control while you pick targets for Kit to shoot at. This will engage while you're in main modes and can really simplify hitting a target you are struggling with, but it does break quite often, so remember, hold both flippers when this breaks. It will give you back control. This inner loop connects to the left hidden orbit and will place the ball on a maglock just above the upper left flipper to make a shot on the ramp, which is very useful if you're trying to start a mode the cool way. To the right is another ramp where you can collect kit parts. This ramp leads to the habit trail that goes to the left flipper, but if you loop this shot several times in a row, the ball will divert to the right flipper instead. The kit parts are ski mode, biometric analysis, bulletproof bodywork, infrared tracking scope, self-regeneration, microscanners, video surveillance, X-ray, electronic jamming systems, and auto collision avoidance. That's one hell of a car you've got there. Collect all 10 parts to start the 2-ball kit frenzy mode where hits on kit score jackpots and the ramps increase that jackpot. To the right of that ramp is my favorite target, the gas pedal. The gas pedal awards multipliers and becomes a sinkhole after being hit several times, giving increased rewards. If you can manage to hit the auto cruise during a multi-ball and aim it at the gas pedal, your score and multiplier will go nuts. To the right of the gas pedal is the right coastal orbit. I call these the coastal orbits because of the Trust Doesn't Rust main mode, which utilizes these two orbit shots very heavily. Hitting the right coastal orbit several times will activate scan mode, which will light up a random ramp or orbit with a scan light. Hitting these targets will complete the mode. Below the orbit on the right side of the table are the SP and M targets. Hitting the letters SPM will start the Super Pursuit mode. Hit the gas pedal or the SPM targets to score, but be aware, I call this the Super Pain in the Ass mode because while it's pretty cool to watch, I've seen the SPM drain the ball repeatedly and I really don't need that kind of help. Luckily, SPM does turn on ball save and will occasionally shoot the ball back out of the drain, but I haven't quite figured out how to control it or if you can even control it at all. I feel like you can drive the ball like a car using the flippers, but I don't know exactly how it works, and usually this mode will take me completely by surprise when it does activate. There are several ways to get extra balls on this table. You can get extra balls by defeating Car, winning a random night award, making 10 turbo boost shots, reaching 8th gear, or starting the kit frenzy. Now that I've discussed all of the shots on the table, it's time to talk about the main modes, which are all started by hitting the kit spinner toy and then hitting either the kit console like some kind of a nerd, or by hitting the jump ramp like an absolute boss. Check that shit out. I got it before Kit even made it into the Flag Mobile base because I fucking rule. The first mission on the list is Goliath. When you start the Goliath mode, Kit will warn Michael about a truck that has the same armor he does, and Michael Knight brilliantly decides to see what would happen in a heads-on collision and nearly destroys Kit. You have to hit the spinner and then the 2 lanes on either side of the spinner to fix Kit, who then finds a weak point on Goliath. You then need to shoot one of 2 lit lanes, but those lanes will rotate around the table. After hitting one of the first set of lanes, a second set of rotating lanes must be hit to finish the mission and Goliath off once and for all. After you defeat Goliath, the next mode is Return of Goliath. Well, wouldn't you know it, that darn Goliath has been rebuilt and he is determined to smash Kit into pieces one more time. But Kit has a number of gadgets installed and uses one of them to get the upper hand first by scouting out a large cliff and then by launching off the side of the cliff while being chased by Goliath using the launch ramp. And then finally, you deploy a parachute by hitting the Kit monitor. The parachute, which is not listed as one of Kit's features that you can collect. I guess there were 11 features after all. The next mission up on the list is Trust Doesn't Rust. This is the third mission that will be started by hitting the Kit spinner. The next mode can be selected by hitting the console while not in a main mode, but I'm going by the natural order that these missions play in. You might have expected car missions to start at the car sinkhole, but that sinkhole will begin a different car side mission, not a main mission. You start Trust Doesn't Rust by shooting the outer orbits to pursue Car and then shooting a sinkhole to save Car's hostage Bonnie, who has been forced to outfit him with a laser. And then with the hostage safe, you must shoot the gas pedal to play chicken with Car. Car was built with a strong sense of self-preservation and swerves to avoid being destroyed by Kit, and instead drives off a cliff and explodes in the ocean, as cars apparently do when they hit salt water. Car is defeated once and for all, never to be seen again. The final mode is Kit vs. Car. Wouldn't you know it, somebody found Car washed up on shore and repaired him. Kit and Car may look identical, but they are kind of like Pinky and the Brain. One is a genius, the other is insane. And now he's pretty pissed off too. In this mirror match for the ages, you must face down Car 2 years after you thought you finished him off. Start off by hitting the Turbo Boost skill shot, which is rapidly moving back and forth and allows you to dodge Car's first laser shot. Then you shoot a loop to reflect Car's laser back at him to disable the weapon. After this, Car seems to give up all sense of self-preservation and settles on a philosophy of mutually assured self-destruction instead, but Kit is able to handle a head-on collision, so Michael hits the turbo boost button straight into Car, and the damage from the laser provided enough of a weak point that Kit tears through his identical twin. After completing all 4 missions, the Wizard Mode unlocks. What's it called? It's just called Wizard Mode. There could have been any number of cool names or references to the show that could have fit in here. True Alpha, which refers to the alpha circuit that houses the core of the artificial intelligence that allows Kit and Car to function. Alpha Circuit would have also been a great name because it refers to that core component, and also like a circuit like in a racing circuit because Car is doing figure eights on the table while you chase him around with a crazy multi-ball. The Darkest Night could have been an amazing name because Michael, Kit, and Car all share one name in common. Kit stands for Knight Industries 2000, Michael's new last name is Knight, and Car stands for Knight Automated Roving Robot. But he has absolutely no regard for human life, making him the Darkest Knight. Actually, please, Zen, if it's at all possible, could you change the name of the Wizard Mode to something better than just Wizard Mode? The rest of the table is super badass, except for this one little detail. I would love to see the Wizard Mode renamed something a little bit cooler. The Wizard Mode is pretty simple. Hit Kit or Car to get jackpots in light lanes for more jackpots. Car will drive off and you can keep shooting on the jackpot lanes until one ball remains, and then the modes will reset and you can start the table all over again. Knight Rider is a standout table. It currently has some issues with the auto cruise breaking, and I broke the table by hitting the Goliath Returns cliff while in a multi-ball, which just kind of hung up the table and required a full reset. There is footage of a critical error while hitting the Wizard Mode, but I'm sure the worst issues will be addressed pretty quickly, and none of these problems are actually big enough to stop me from playing this absolutely fantastic table. You do not see Michael's face on the table, probably because the likeness rights were too expensive, but Kit is the star of the show and always has been. The audio on the table sounds like it's taken directly from the show, but it also sounds much cleaner than I would have expected it to. The toys on this table are amazing. This is one of the most animated tables I've ever played, and it has that perfect 80s aesthetic, which is strongly reinforced by the Turbo Boost drop targets, which feel like the right amount of antiquated for this table. I want to say that out of the 5 new tables, Knight Rider and Xena are the 2 that I like the absolute best, but the next review is all about the table that is probably a solid 3rd place, and that's Pacific Rim, and I'm chasing the wizard mode on all 3 of these tables right now. I'm so close to breaking through, and somehow I already managed to hit the wizard mode on the 5th table, which is Super League Football. So that's a guide you're probably going to want to see. I am not the only one improving my game. I have a new podcast on another channel with Fantavision and Cuddly Dragon. Cuddly Dragon is brand new to pinball, and he puts up some really good competition on most of the tables, along with his friend Bengerman. Fantavision is a longtime casual player who recently got addicted to pinball because he didn't have anybody to compete with before, and pinball is a very social game. Right now he's lagging behind in scores, but I've already identified a couple of his biggest problems, and they are easily correctable because he hasn't trained himself in some very basic techniques like nudging the table to avoid the outlane, and he hasn't practiced stuff like capture and cradle, dead flipping, and probably doesn't even realize you can nudge the ball from one flipper to the other, so his current high scores are kind of on the low end. Once I coach him and the other new players on these basic techniques that have helped me land in the top 1% of players on the Knight Rider table, I expect that they'll give me a really good challenge. I get better and better as I make these guides, and since there are currently 130 tables across Pinball M and Pinball FX, and I only have something like 10 tables already reviewed, I should be an absolute beast by the end of this journey. Hi! Funny little thing happened after I wrote that last passage there. Fantavision finally sacked up and kicked the hell out of my high score on Fishtails, and it's not going to be easy to beat his new high score. Congratulations, you finally beat me, you little shit.
Well, that didn't last real f***ing long.
I've said before, Xena's superhuman abilities may point to the fact that she might be a Cylon. I have mentioned that she might have an identical twin on Battlestar Galactica, which may actually be just the same person as Xena, but I believe I have been completely off base in claiming that Kit might be an early model Cylon. Kit was programmed to protect human life above all else. He was created to be sensitive, so he wouldn't want to function with a driver with bad intentions. Kit's offensive capabilities are strictly defensive measures, specifically because he does have such a high regard for human life. So there is absolutely no way that any artificial intelligence derived from Kit could hold such a high disregard for human life as to cause a genocidal war between man and machine. I could never believe such a thing would ever happen. Now, if someone were to happen upon the broken remains of Carr and use his alpha chip for a basis for a new AI, we would probably be screwed, but not Kit. Oh. Well, that's unfortunate for the future of humanity. But that Cylon shit isn't going to happen during my lifetime, so I'm going to just keep playing pinball and not really worry about it. Oh, and I took a lot of cheap shots at David Hasselhoff about probably the lowest point in his life, so I want to take a second to say he turned it all around after that. I used to think it was weird that he was a huge music star in Germany, but then Hasselhoff made a great music video for Guardians of the Galaxy, and True Survivor, the theme from Kung Fury, is legitimately one of my current favorite songs. Zardu Hassenfrau has come a long way since eating cheeseburgers on the floor, which makes it that much more fun to celebrate one of his more popular shows, even if he did take backseat to the real star of the show, the coolest car in television history. I would like to thank my viewers, my subscribers, my channel members, and all of you who hit that thumbs up button. An extra special thanks to my sponsors who have gone above and beyond in their support, which is how I acquired all of the tables. My channel is not sponsored by Xena. I do not have early table access or any special game key that just unlocks everything for me. I just really like the game that they made, and I feel like it has injected new life into a hobby that was basically dead when I was a teenager. I'll be back with another review in the very near future, and we're in the process of laying out the groundwork for a Pinball Podcast, so expect the first episode within about, I'd say, a month or so, and on a more regular basis once we have everything worked out. Until then, toodles!
Shall I call Devin?
Nah, that little shit beat my Wild West Rampage score. I don't feel like hearing about it again.
Devin sends his regards.
Champions of what? Gutenberg's generation thirsted for a new book every 6 months. Your generation gets a new web page every 6 seconds. And how do you use this technology? To beat King Koopa.
Well, these computer things are just a waste of time anyway. Oh, present company excluded, of course.